Okay. Well, okay, there we go. That's off now. Let's get back there. Okay. Hi, hello. How are you doing? On where's it? There you are. That is how it's 5:30 or thereabouts has been about what it's ended up the last couple of weeks, hasn't it? I don't know. Also, just if you hear clicking and stuff, I found one of these guys. So the Switch is the one that I've been playing with the most. It's a little bit more of a controlled sound than the squeaky wheel that this guy has. So we'll see on that. Yeah, getting back to the time thing. I don't know. We'll see what happens, but I would like to get it back down to 4. But yeah, we'll see. Also, Cat has made a reappearance. Yes. Because the book floof. Anyway. Yeah, so how have you been? How you doing? I'm glad to see that the rainbow tree is in full effect and stuff. Just being generally awesome. But yeah. Also the beverage for today. We've got where was this from? Yeah. 2-year-old kombucha. Which I saw this for sale a couple weeks ago. I don't know if it's the same cans or not, but these particular ones were a limited edition for Pride 2019. So, yeah. Had to go back on prednisone, see doc tomorrow. Best with the time navigation crawling. Yeah. Understandable. Well, I wish you luck and success with the doctor's visit and stuff. It partly it's been sitting in the fridge for 2 years and I wanted to finally get it out of there. But I don't know. The obsession with it that people seem to have, I don't get. And there's other things that you can drink or eat or whatever that have like live cultures in it that does the same thing. So I don't know on that one, but yeah, there's that. I will say, of the ones that I've tried, the flavor on this isn't too bad. I would not have combined jasmine, lavender, and green tea, and it doesn't taste like any of those. But it's, as a combination, it's not too bad. I remember I had one a couple years ago that was supposed to be root beer that. Yeah, incidentally, I kind of got it because of the can. Also, what was it? I don't know if it was all proceeds or just part of the proceeds or what, but as part of the special Pride stuff, they made donations to the Trevor Project, so also part of the thing. That sounds like poison. Glad it's all the way over there. Effective marketing. Exactly. If nothing else, the marketing was rather effective. But I saw the same cans at Target, like, I don't know, 2 weeks ago, and they still have the Pride wine bottles. I forget what kind it is. I'm not really a wine person, but they have like some kind of sparkling wine in special holographic rainbow bottles that's limited edition from last year at Target. At least the ones around here. So, something on that. But yeah, I will say it's supposedly Best Buy with November 2019, and it still tastes the same as like the first can. So, I don't know. Anyway, there's that. Somewhere, I don't. Yeah, wow, okay. I don't think it ever got posted, but somewhere I have a review for this that I recorded back in 2019. Anyway. So, come on. Alright. So, I will say having. Y'all can't see, can you? The new phone is considerably, like. Is it? Okay, you can kind of see it. Is considerably, like, longer and, and narrower than the one that I've been using. So seeing the Kindle page just kind of spread out is a bit weird, but there we go. Yeah. Honestly, I don't know. On I don't know on the kombucha thing because I didn't actually pick it up and look at it. I just know that the ones that I have been sitting in the fridge for 2 years. So I figured it was about time to either just toss them or drink it. So this is kind of like an experiment in seeing if I want to try and finish the 4-pack that I got. And so far, I'm not having a negative reaction to it, and it's going pretty good, so there we go on that. But yeah, so here we go. Alright. Okay. We shall pray for your guts microbiome. Yes. Much appreciated. Alright. I should probably not do that while I have something in my hand. Alright. So, greetings, guys, gals, and non-binary pals, and welcome to the stream, or the video format of the stream, whichever it is that you're looking at. We're doing chapters 6 to 10 of Lydia Kang's Opium and Absinthe, as you can see over here. Spoilers ahead if you haven't read up to this point in the book. Or even if you have, I guess. Spoilers ahead. Anyway. So. Also, if you're hearing clicky noises or whatever, it's this guy. Little fidget cube dude. Okay. So, as we saw in the first round, first 5 chapters, there's a vampire subplot, vampire-esque plotline, however you want to phrase it, going through the text. Between what is her name? Lucy. Okay, there we go. Between Lucy's death and the weird marks on her neck and things like that, to Dracula just having been released earlier that year, and right now it's June here, and Lucy was killed 3 weeks prior, so Lucy was killed in, let's go with May, and it's currently June. And in order to keep the vampire element present in the reader's mind and stuff, I'm guessing, each chapter is prefaced with a quote from Dracula. And periodically, just hold it like this. Periodically, Lucy references back to a certain part of Dracula or Stoker or associated theories. Yeah, drained of blood but dumped in daylight. Yeah. So there's that. Also, there's we saw it earlier in earlier chapters, but there's a continuing kind of theme of like familial secrets and maybe not knowing the people that you are close to as well as you thought you did. In this context, it's Tilly learning more about her sister and the conflicts between Lucy and James, and that Lucy apparently had her own writing station up in her room and has a mysterious locked drawer in her side. Excuse me. In her side table and whatnot there. Yeah. But not gonna lie, I was real worried when she asked Ada to bring the sharp scissors. Cutting the bird's wings is bad enough, which that's a whole thing in and of itself as just like an animal rights situation for discussion. But like with how I don't know if aggressive is the word to go with here or not, but with how kind of forceful she was being with the whole thing. Snatching her bird out of the air or off the table or wherever the bird was and holding the bird down with sharp scissors. Like, I'm glad that it was just trimming the wing feathers, because I thought for a second that she was just gonna full on stab the parrot. But like, just the... Right. I'll just turn the sound off on here. Okay, one sec. Okay. So there's that. There's that. Ah! Okay. Volume keys from media. Alright. I have discovered how to use the sound functions on the new phone. Yay. Awesome. Anyway, what was I saying? Before so rudely being interrupted by the phone. Which the phone would be over there somewhere, but it's also where the book is right now, so there we go. Anyway. Oh, yeah. So, as far as yay for phone mastery. So, as far as Tilly's aware, right? Her sister could kind of do no wrong in the eyes of the family. The same family who routinely gets on her case for pretty much everything. And when we're introduced to the bird, can't remember the bird's name right now, but Eleonora, there we go. When we're introduced to Eleonora, she's just flapping her wings, and keeps trying to jump from the perch that she's on to the table, or flying from the perch to the back of a chair, or whatever. And each time is met with the grandma essentially saying, "Oh, you're such a good bird. You're such a good girl. Yes, yeah, no, just go back to your perch. It's fine. You're such a good bird." Which is generally, at least how Tilly perceived it, how her sister was treated, especially compared to how she's been treated. And then in that same tone, her grandmother asks Ada to go get the sharp scissors so she can cut the bird's wings. And the bird's on the table, and because she's no longer able to fly, just falls onto the ground afterwards. And I mean, she's just exerting her control over whatever is lower than herself at that point. But B, if that's how she's acting towards the parrot, and the parrot seemed to be coded to have I don't know, similar attributes to one or both of her granddaughters. What does that mean for the authenticity, I guess, of what Tilly knows of her sister and how her sister was treated? Also, yeah, the whole no more trips to the Lennox Library thing. You know, because having the women folk be informed about things is just too much for what the fragile patriarchal society or whatever. Like, the family is a matriarchy. All the dudes are literally dead. So, like, what? Like, and then she comes out with, like, oh, well, when I was your age, I was married and had a kid, so therefore, or, no, when I was Lucy's age, I was married and had a kid, and she would have been too if she hadn't, whatever, like, the amount of victim blaming. Wow. Like, on the one hand, I can see part of it as a, like, defense mechanism of, yeah, that freaking line. If Lucy had just been complacent enough, she'd still be alive. Like, excuse you. Excuse you. Ah. No. Let me see if I can find that. If she had been proper in all the ways a lady ought, she'd still be alive and readying herself for marriage. Like, what? Actually, what? Oh, jeez. And this, folks, is why the fidget is in today's stream. Ah! Yeah. No, seriously, like... Ah! Seriously, like, I get that sometimes if someone is feeling like everything is out of their control, then they might react in certain negative ways and all of that. Like, I tried to shield someone from X, or I tried to warn someone about X. And then whatever X is happens. However, that is not reason or cause or anything else of that nature to then blame the person who is now however negatively impacted for the thing that has happened, whether or not the person is still among the living or not. Yeah, if there was a middle finger, I was completely unintentional, but you know, fits. Oh, so there's that. Uh, okay. Oh yeah. Also, right. There's an interesting, like, I know that racism and classism and everything has been part of yeah, just one sec. I know racism and classism has been part of US everything since everything since the inception of the place, really. But it's interesting to see, like, in particular pockets of society and time and location, what is most, maybe not most visible, but most, well, prominent would be the same as visible, really, in that. But it's interesting, really, that in one of Ian's notes, he's remarking that the family's butler has an odd German-French accent situation happening. Because apparently, his name is Friedrich Fenstermacher, because he's German, but Germans weren't seen on, well, Germans were one of the lesser desirable groups of people at that time. Same with Russians and the Polish and a whole bunch of other people. So therefore, it went by Pierre and spoke with a kind of pseudo-French accent. Because all of the great houses had French servants. which is a whole other thing that we can get into at a later date, of the French being the acceptable servants to predominantly English speaking or English appearing people, and what that has to do with colonialism and everything else. But there we go. Anyway, was afraid in the absinthe scene the sugar burning was going to happen, and was relieved when it didn't. Surprised it's categorized as a narcotic. Yeah. France is fancy and fashionable. Right. France is fancy and fashionable, and where all of the, like, fashion houses are, versus Germany. Yeah, I was kind of worried about the sugar burning situation. From what I remember, that took on more of a thing, that became more of a thing in the, I want to say it was the 20s. Yeah. Yeah, because the restrictions on wine would have been maybe 1880 to like 1910. I want to say the years are probably off, but 1899 is in the middle of it. I remember that much. And absinthe was real cheap because you could make a whole bottle and then dilute it with water. So it was easy to sell and stuff. As far as a narcotic, it depends on how it's made. Wormwood itself isn't a narcotic. More drunk for your buck, exactly. As Fiona was phrasing it, a bottle of wine has, depending on how much you put in a glass, about 4 to 6 glasses in a bottle, versus a bottle of absinthe that has about 32. So, there you go. Or you could just do the concentrated variety, and would not recommend. I have not tried that with absinthe, but I have tried that with squash, and it's just a bad idea. That was also before I realized that squash was a concentrated fruit juice situation. Which I can only imagine is why it's called squash, because it's been condensed into a smaller format. There's that. Yeah. Fiona is the absinthe expert when interviewed for the podcast. check out the YouTube video. Yes. Also, I need to update the links. So yeah, if you're watching this on YouTube later or on Twitch later, if you go to the botany link where it says Ethnobotanicam, or yeah, but yeah, if you go to the link for the podcast, it'll be in there. Yeah, squash is essentially straight concentrate. Like, if most fruit concentrates that I've seen in the US has been frozen, but basically frozen orange juice, but in a bottle on the shelf. And it's usually about, like, somewhere between 50p and 2 pounds, depending on where you're getting it, what kind it is, and how big the bottle is. And with that in mind, I poured myself a glass of orange juice one time, and no, you're supposed to do about, like, I don't know, this much concentrate to about that much water. Oh, it burns so much. So much. Would not recommend on that one. Inspector Lewis is always getting it when Morse drags him off to pubs for thinking. Yeah. Okay, in which storyline are we talking? Because I know the name, but I can't remember why. Yeah. Okay. Shall we get all the angst out now and move on to James' heinousness? Fake BBC show. Okay. That's what I thought. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, no. There's just something about a BBC, like, inspector shows that I quite like. Honestly. Just as a general thing. Alright, so getting back to this over here, which again, just as a thing, right? As an aesthetic thing, if nothing else, that cover is great. It really is. Anyway, so James being himself. um okay. Okay, wait, one sec. uh Cover art 10 out of 10. Exactly. That's what the context was. Okay. Like for Kindle you can highlight sections and make notes or whatever, and it just holds all of the highlights and notes in a separate section. And I just highlighted, it's unlikely that James is a vampire. He's always out in the daylight, for one thing. It's like, what is the context of this? I don't remember. And it's in response to Ian asking what the fighting between James and Lucy was about, but if James is a suspect, there's no way that he would admit that anything was wrong in their relationship. So, yeah. Also, we see an interesting I don't know, difference of perception in in relationships between the upper and lower ends of society, I suppose. Where Ian's asking if James is okay. What was it? Tilly thinking about whether he could have been the killer. Okay. What did I say that he hasn't, his sister did, is in response to? Because I don't remember. Because there were problems between him and Lucy. Oh, okay. Yeah. Wait, James has a sister? Because I know Dorothy's the one that I remember bringing it up. And at least she's got a different family name. Right? She's Tilly's best friend and accompanies them in a carriage. Yeah. Um. Hmm. Okay, one sec. Alright. Okay, Dorothy Harriman and James Astor. That's not to say that. Oh, wait, no. What? Okay, one sec. James Cutter. Yeah, okay. James Cutter and Dorothy Harrington. Yeah. Yeah, that's that's the weird part there. It's like, why? I don't know. I don't know about that. But yeah, it looks like they're both in the same spaces, but I don't know. As far as I can tell, they're not related though. But like having a different family name doesn't necessarily mean that they're not in the same family. They could be cousins. At a certain point, the entirety of a region's aristocracy is pretty much related to a degree. So there's that. Yeah, yeah. I would not be surprised if they were cousins at all. But also, there's a point where they're sitting in the carriage and Tilly is, what was it? She's watching them interact. Yeah. Okay, I can't find where the actual mention was, but until he's sitting there, if I remember right, across from uh, Dorothy and James, and notes that Dorothy seems to have a proprietary arm, uh, like through James's arm or some. It's described something like that, but then I don't know. Which is interesting. uh, but yeah. Um, okay. So, uh, I will say, right, the more that Hazel's character is being kind of fleshed out, the more I'm liking her as a person, because she seems pretty cool and stuff, and has a lot of depth and whatnot, and, actual compassion for her fellow humans, and the weirdness that they're potentially going through, as opposed to a lot of the other people involved. So, there's that. Dorothy's uh she's not described as a maid, but her lady's maid, her uh her hired companion, um because everyone aside from Hazel, Ian, and to a lesser degree Tom, and somewhat Ada, but we don't really see all that much of Ada's persona coming out. Are like those are the only characters who are really acknowledging um yeah, the one who looks like a doll. the They're the only ones who are acknowledging really that losing a family member or having struggles is a very human thing, and isn't something to necessarily just try and I don't know if ignore is the right word, but there we go. So she's asking Tilly how she's doing and stuff, and like, oh well, just a little claustrophobic. Like, no, I mean your broken bone. Oh, it's all right. It's far from better. Oh, and how are you otherwise? Like, otherwise? Oh, she meant after Lucy's death. Well, I don't know how to be. Of course you don't, Hazel said, and patted her good arm. You can read pamphlets on how to properly mourn a person. How many weeks before you can stop wearing black and crepe. How to do your hair and when to leave a card. But there is really never a guidebook for your heart, is there? No, there isn't. The significance suddenly crept up on her. Have you lost someone, Hazel? Like, I have, but not one I can ever speak of. And so it's inferred that Hazel was pregnant at some point, but is unmarried, and there's a whole situation there. So that's probably going to come up later in the story as part of a character thing. I don't know. Otherwise, it's just there to explain why she would be able to relate to losing someone close to you. I don't know. We're at that point we're about 30% into the text. So yeah. So chapter 10 is like 33% in. So there's another 2/3 of potential character development to go with. But I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So let's have a chat about good old James and his oh jeez. Um Hazel has a brain and likes to use it. Exactly. But she also knows that if she's too overt about it, she's going to likely be punished in some way. So, yeah. But she definitely has a brain, and I really want to see how that develops. And Tilly has a brain and likes to use it. So, depending on how much interaction they're allowed to have in the course of the story, I can see that being a friendship that develops too. So, I don't know. Also, before we dive into James and his idiocy, just a linguistic thing, right? When Ian's suggesting that they go for a steak dinner for Tilly to pay him back for getting information and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, let's go to this one place. It's the real thing. No paste jewels. Which at that, come on, where? No, come on. Which is essentially like it's no fake jewels, no fake intents. Uh, it's usually seen in situations where a previously wealthy family has sold off things of value and are still trying to maintain appearances, or where less affluent people are trying to appear more wealthy. So now it would be like costume jewelry or lucite or plastic casting or something. But at the time it was a paste or I can't remember what the paste base would be exactly. If it was a kind of a painted plaster or something, but it'd be something like that. Also seems suspiciously like a date, but there we go. Anyway, so James and his lack of all of the things. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Oh yeah. Also, when Ian's talking about absinthe and stuff, how was it? Didn't you hear that it was a favorite of Lord Byron and all the great artists? And just as a point, Dracula is kind of based on Byron, the Byronic, I don't know if it would be called an archetype, but no, that's the wrong word. But the Byronic type character is a vampire. That it's been a couple days since I watched the videos, but they'll be linked and stuff too. But there was a novella. Low extract was good move, but Tylenol versus opiates, no contest. Yeah, exactly. Like, yeah. But yeah, the original. It wouldn't have been the original vampire story, but the one that kicked off the vampire story set that we know today with Dracula and subsequent iterations is based on Byron. So yeah, willow extract is a good option, especially if you're trying to not have something that, you know, is addictive and things. But if you need the strong pain management, I mean, it doesn't even do much against, like, cramps. I can just imagine how ineffective it would be with, like, broken bones and stuff. Like, yeah. Feel compelled to mention Dracula was largely ripped from Varney the Vampire by James Malcolm Rymer. Yeah. Yeah, yeah. Varney? Okay. Let me just see something real quick. mm. I just find it kind of hilarious, in a way. I looked up the vampire just to check something real quick. And the first results are the vampire book. And they have a shot from the Lost Boys as the cover. I don't know if you can see it, but like over here. uh yeah. Okay. It was Malcolm Rymer. Okay. Okay. Alright, so Varney the Vampire was 1845. Wait, the vampire was 1819. Okay, yeah. Okay. So I'm not all that familiar with. Come on. That okay, one sec. Just fully opened Audible instead of Kindle again. Alright, back when plagiarism was profitable. Haven't finished it yet. It's several inches thick, but I like it much better than Dracula. Girl Fiona. Shoot Swarty. Girl Power. Oh, nice. Come on. Okay. Yeah, so the lineage of vampire novels is interesting. I mean, the lineage of any genre novels that have a lot of repetition is interesting. But, like, so we've got the vampire, and Varney the vampire, and Dracula. And somewhere between the vampire and Dracula is Carmilla. And all through the whole thing, every mention of vampires and whatnot has at least latent references to homosexuality and bisexuality and whatnot. And that playing a role in, I mean, initially why the character is bad and does bad things, but that's a whole other conversation. Which, having that just like in the back of my head, I wonder if that's gonna have any kind of role in the rest of the story. But yeah. Yeah, the Victorian writing is cool. But yeah, it's interesting because the vampire in The Vampire is literally based on Byron. And that influenced like the whole rest of the genre, which is a whole thing. You also heard a credible theory where vampires symbolize sexual abuse. Interesting. I had not heard that one, but interesting. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Okay. One sec. I will be right back. Gonna pop the BRB screen up and turn the turn the tunes back on for a second. All right. Un momento. got this back. Just that. Yes, indeed, a yay. Okay. So, need to turn this off. One sec. Alright. Okay, so we are good on that. Come on. Alright, now. Okay. So, I keep going to talk about James and his general himselfness and getting distracted by other parts of the plot and things. Like, you know, the description of pea soup resembling a festering pond. Which I don't know about y'all, but not a pea soup fan, right? I eat it when it's there, but it's never really been the go-to. Yeah. Anyway, so James. Uh, James is a whole kettle of issues. Okay. So, I mean, James and Dr. What's his face? Erickson. The both of them. But especially James. In this. Well, yeah, both of them. Really. I don't think we've ever had pea soup. I've had it because it's kind of it's one of my mom's favorites. And if it's made in certain particular ways and there's like, I don't know, bread or something to eat with it, then it's alright. But it tends to be really thick, made of mushed peas and carrots and stuff. Traditionally, I think there's ham in it. But we're a veggie, so no on that. Um, yeah, there's some that really like it, and there's some that really don't, and then everyone else in the middle is just kind of like, it's there, I guess. So, yeah, I have to be in a very particular frame of mind to eat it, otherwise it's literally hard to have it go down. I'll say that. Yeah. So, just as a thing, right? Tilly doesn't do. So, getting back to the book, Tilly doesn't tend to do all that well in social situations. Totally get that. Same here. I would also probably retreat to the library in whatever establishment we were in if I was in some of the situations that she's described in here. Except most of the time when I've been anywhere, there hasn't been a library, or the library was like a stack of books in the same room as everyone else. So, like, but, what chapter is this? Yeah, chapter 10. So, until he's noticing that James is a good-looking dude with broad shoulders and just like a decent physique appearance. It's just like, it seems like she's getting, I don't know, caught up in whatever attention he might be giving her, which, in its own thing, just separate from everything else, isn't necessarily a bad thing, you know? If that's what all parties are into. But, until your sister died however many weeks ago, dude was engaged to her. Which, I know for the time period that wasn't so out of the question of like, well, our families have agreed to a marriage between one kid from your family and one kid from our family, and well, one of them died, so therefore, well, who's next? You. Okay, yay. But also, before like a couple of days from before this, like before the funeral essentially, James didn't acknowledge that Tilly existed really, aside from just, well, this is my fiance's annoying little sister. So, I don't, what? Yeah, her reaction to his backhanded compliment was, don't know why I feel a little weird about that, but totally flattered. Yeah, yeah, exactly. Like, what? um, also, uh, it, she was gonna send James a note to be like, yes, well, uh, let's go do a thing, because she needed cover to do a thing, to go talk to the kid's family. And he'd been leaving calling cards saying, what was it? He'd been leaving cards for her while she slept, and was due to call on her for an outing the next day. He'd even sent a parcel that morning. Like, but why though? Just why? You know? Tilly, don't be a simp. Seriously. No, it's hard when you're getting attention from handsome for the first time, but like, seriously? Girl, use your damn brain. Come on. Ah, seriously. Where is it? But yeah, we just the idea that we go from like, and do we believe James is going to keep quiet? No. Him agreeing to that is out of character. Seriously, like, he's the kind of person that is going to use whatever to his own ends. So like, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. But like, the idea that we're going from, if the murders happen during daylight, then it can't possibly be a vampire. And it's like, yeah, okay. To everything else that's happening in here. Like, seriously, Tilly. Dude might be cute, but he's still an ass, so don't. just don't. And like, how was it? You look beautiful. You're starting to get your bloom back. Like, I didn't know I had any to begin with. Like, oh, you did. Yours is the kind of beauty that has to be searched for. Are you excavating? Why? James, why? What are you doing? Yours is the kind of beauty that has to be searched for, but like any treasure, it's worth the finding. Such a compliment. Like, is it though? Is it? Is it? Come on. Okay. Um. Also, like, I get that Dorothy tends to not, like, just go for an explore or whatever. Like, oh, this far downtown? Really? Hazel, isn't it just like Tilly to be exploring strange new places? Like, it's the other side of the city, Dorothy. It's not Mars. Come on. And Hazel's just sitting there like, yeah, totally, yeah. Okay. What? Oh, seriously, the love goggles are strong. Honestly, the opium isn't going to help Tilly think clearly. Seriously. Like, girl, just take the aspirin at that point. Like, I know the pain and stuff is gonna be a lot, but, like, you need your brain on right. If you're gonna be dealing with James and all of his stupidity. Seriously. Oh, yeah, also, just as a, just chucking this thing everywhere. As a temporal thing, what was it? They're talking as they're going past Madison Square Park, and it was green and open with electric streetcars running down its flanks. What was once swamp and a pauper's graveyard now boasted a bronze statue of William H. Stewart. And it was just interesting because you've got, I guess, early gentrification of the area. Because if she's commenting that it used to be a swamp and a graveyard and things, then it's likely that it's something that she has seen, that she saw change. Especially because I don't know where it was in here, but there was an observation that something had changed since, or was changed in 1888, 1889. So it would have been when she was 8 or 9 years old. And seeing that progression of the city and how it might impact other interactions and things. It'd be interesting to see if she does go through withdrawals and get sober. Yeah, seriously. Because you can see the withdrawal symptoms creeping up periodically, and how that seems to impact how she's interacting with the rest of the cast, and how the rest of the cast is interacting with her. Especially depending on what their own relationship to particular substances is. Like, we don't know exactly why, we don't know why her grandmother is so against opiates, aside from that there's a population in the lower classes, or the less affluent part of the city that tends to have more to do with opium trade and stuff. And there's a note in there where they're going past a building with Chinese writing on it and low couches and kind of a smoky atmosphere, which, with the temporal clues and the region and stuff, that would be an opium den. So it's also at a point in history that doctors were prescribing laudanum and general opiates for most things at that point. But there was also some who were recognizing that well-controlled amounts of opiates can be beneficial. They're also potentially addictive, depending on the person and the amount, and if someone is left to their own devices to dose themselves with however many drops they want to use at a particular point, that rate increases a lot, presumably. Especially if it's not just physical pain that you're dealing with and you're trying to block out a bunch of other stuff at the same time, which is not a fun combination there. But you see an interesting dichotomy between the grandmother who doesn't want Tilly to use opiates because it's a lower class thing. Her mom who doesn't want her to use opiates because presumably her grandma is getting on her case. But there's also a whole lot of mystery surrounding Tilly's dad. So, I don't know. And then the doctor who is just prescribing it for whatever. Okay, what's... Oh yeah, so when she's trying to get the doctor to write a prescription for more meds, she says like that taking it has made her less nervous and uncomfortable. Which, yeah, depending on how narcotics affect you, if you're stoned out of your mind, you're probably less likely to be really keyed up about things. you know, depending on how anxiety and whatever other condition someone might be dealing with manifest for that particular person. And his response, Mr. Dr. Erickson's response over here, right? You likely had a nervous disorder before the bone break, a common affliction in young women. I see no harm in continuing for a little while longer. Like, your emotions are inconvenient and we don't want to deal with them, so to make everyone's life easier, let's just keep you medicated. There could be a religious element as well. Some believe pain purifies and it's sinful to moderate it. Oh, yeah, I forgot about that. And her mom and her grandmother are part of the Temperance Society, which that would stand to reason. Yeah. That would stand to reason. And I think there was a passage earlier that was saying that I think it was in this. Okay. Essentially, most narcotics don't really do much for the pain. They just make you not care about the pain or anything else. True. Yeah. 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 I don't remember if it was in this or if it was in another book. Mostly because I've read a lot of things that take place somewhere in the 1780s to 1890s in the last couple of weeks. And in basically all of them, there's some element of, like, pain makes you stronger. Laudanum or, something similar is great. Smoking's good for your health. And it's just like, okay. Alright then. So, yeah. Ow. But yeah, especially with, Erickson's, like, little follow-up dig, right? All Tilly did was ask someone who is a science dude. Yeah, no worries, guys. And I'm glad that Tilly had the, the drive to actually finish asking the questions and stuff. But, like, when presented with the question of, hey, Doc, as a dude of science, do you think vampires exist? You're You're reading too many novels, Miss Pembroke. Try reading Fordyce's sermons to young women instead. They have a steadying effect on delicate constitutions. Like, sir. Excuse you. Like, yeah, no, I get it. Alright, it's kind of a weird question, but like, is it scientifically potentially possible? Is my question. Alright? At which point his ending hypothesis is, of course, I suspect the killer is not of the human variety. It's probably some, like, random animal that, the Zoological Society brought in. Yeah, totally. Because, that makes sense. Because there's totally some random critter that would not leave any hair or paw prints or scales or any kind of evidence behind ever at all, and would completely drain its victims of blood and leave an absinthe bottle in the, wake of committing a murder. Yeah, that totally makes sense. And then he's just, overheard fighting with his wife, which just cements him as, not a good dude. Like, seriously. The phrase, what did I tell you? Never question me. Like, can you not today? Maybe. Yeah? Yeah. Seriously. Like, honestly, between James and the doctor, don't know which one I have more issues with on that one. Because James, Tilly seems to have a weird, like, I don't know, rose-colored glasses situation going on for, which is, kind of concerning. Hopefully the rest of her brain engages with everything happening. But the doctor is just, like, generally nasty to everybody. So, there's that. And from how jumpy and jittery and everything the maid is in that house, I would not be surprised if he's, verbally and physically abusive in some way. Oh, yeah. Also, was thinking, right? from how, if we ever do a Tilly, please smack us upside the head. Noted. Same, honestly, though. Like, guys. No. Like, just because the dude's hot does not mean that you need to go after that. Alright? Just. There's some times that you can go, that over there, that looks cool. I'm gonna just stay over here. It's fine. On a slightly different tangent, right? If Tilly's dad was rumored to have Chinese ancestry, right? Especially if he was rumored to have Chinese ancestry and was also poor, which seems to be the way of it. He would be more, I don't know, he would potentially be more, not likely, but have a reason to fight against that, I suppose. And there's a passage in there that she's talking to Tom about her dad because her mom refuses to talk about him, which is either because it's too painful, because her mom forbid it, which I would not be surprised if that's the case, or a combination of the two. But there's a passage where, he was a scholar working to debunk the resurgence in the practice of phrenology. He grew ill one day and died very suddenly. A heart attack, I believe. Which, it hasn't come up in the storyline as yet. But we know from the synopsis thing that there's something to do with a poison happening. And whether it's a commentary on opium consumption and that poisoning the community, or if it's a poison that is being administered, we don't know yet. But could whatever that is be connected to the vampire mystery and the family secret, whatever it is, and why no one talks about her dad anymore? Because there are poisons that will either mimic or bring on effects very similar to a heart attack, or will bring on a heart attack. depending on the substances involved. And also, if he's trying to disprove phrenology, that's kind of what a lot of what is it? That's what a lot of that's what a lot of racist medical practice has been based on, and policies that have come out of that. Because phrenology is the detailed study of the shape and size of the cranium, and it's supposed to be an indication of character and mental abilities. Which is why certain shaped heads, certain features have become connected to perceived higher or lower IQ, intelligence, etc. And that tends to be weaponized against minorities. So, if her dad was trying to disprove that as a viable thing, and that is what a lot of the, at that point, current hierarchy would have been based on to keep certain groups of people out of particular jobs, fields, whatever, opportunities, because they're obviously not as intelligent as these other people, because reasons. That would be a rather strong incentive for certain persons to take action against someone, if you will. So, I don't know. Especially if he's one of the people who, aside from her grandmother making snide comments, no one has spoken ill of so far. And I mean, her grandmother has bad things to say about pretty much everyone except James, so her perception of reality is not one that I put much stock in. So, there we go. Yeah. Good point. Phrenology was huge at the time, used to determine criminality and insanity as well. Exactly. So, yeah. Because that sounds like it was, I don't know if a hit would be the right phrasing or not, but that's what it sounds like. So there's that. Yeah. Uh, Also, just okay. Moving forward in the story a bit, we've got James, Tilly, Dorothy, and Hazel in a coach in Kleindeutschland, which, if my rusty German is accurate, the translation would be Little Germany, right? But we've got Hazel that's just chilling, just hanging out, like taking in everything going on around them, you know, not fussed about anything. Just like, oh yeah, okay, this is a different part of the city. All right, yeah, this I recognize this sort of area. Okay, fine, whatever. Versus James, who's like, what's the quote? James was looking as if he might catch his death just by opening the door. Like, yes, he's being his normal, dramatic, annoying, freaking irritating self. Just, uh. Seriously. What? And then, right? This was not what I had in mind when your mother and I agreed to allow you some fresh air. Like, okay, allow? Okay. And B, your mother and I have agreed that you need to do whatever. Like, are you her dad now? Like, that, James? James, James, I click buttons in your general direction. No. Stop that. Like, seriously. In the notes, I just have, really, James? At least try to be subtle about your disdain of women who act independently. Like, seriously. Ah. At least try, you know? Like, very well. And he forced a gallant smile, like, yes, when the fragile, innocent girl who needs to be protected, has more, you know, fortitude and everything than the self-proclaimed manly man who, is going to allow you to go outside. No. Before, what was it? And when she's expressing her own opinions and stuff, James looked at her appraisingly, somewhere between the glance one might give a raw diamond estimating its worth and a pile of horse manure on the street, wondering if it could be avoided. Like, oh. Wait, Tilly. Tilly? This? You don't want this. No. No. Ugh. Followed by, I'll not lose you like I lost Lucy. Like, okay, it's supposed to, it's probably supposed to be romantic. You know, it's probably supposed to sound romantic. And it's probably sounding romantic to Tilly because she's sitting there with, like, the rose goggles and stuff on. But, like, it just feels more like a statement of ownership than anything else. And it's real cringe. And, can we not with that? Maybe, you know. Oh, this guy, honestly. Okay, just to see what kind of a answer I would get. In Kindle, you can look up words that are weird and stuff. And there's a point in there that they're talking about, like, there's a whatnot in the corner that, okay, used to refer to an item or items that are not identified but are felt to have something in common with items already named. Little flashing lights, little flashing digital displays, electric zooms, and whatnots. Or a stand with shelves for small objects. So, I'm guessing that's the one that we're going with. So, what was it? Smoke stains from the cook stove darken the paper, and this is in Mrs. Weber's house, or the Weber's house. Smoke stains from the cook stove darken the paper, which peeled near the ceiling. A whatnot stood in the corner, holding a small framed photo of a fuzzy couple and a few figurines, centered with care on embroidered linen circles. So, a shelf unit situation, a small shelving unit. Okay. When I turn the mic off for a second, gotta blow my nose. Okay, and we're back. And okay, so something I was noticing, right? The upper class suppresses their emotions in regards to grief and stuff because there's a fashionable mourning period or whatever. Versus the less affluent population who, in a way, suppresses their grief because they're not allowed the luxury of having a mourning period. Because, unlike the rich folks, everybody else has to keep getting on with what they're doing, regardless of what's happening in their individual lives. And especially at that point, there weren't really workers' protections, especially for especially for how to phrase this. Immigrants from the less desirable nationalities, shall we say? Like, as we mentioned before, if you were French, it was cool and stuff, but if you were German or Russian or something, then you were essentially like relegated to the less affluent parts of town, regardless of anything else. So, yeah. And especially if you were a woman who also had to work, there were often I don't want to say less protections, but in certain ways there were less protections. And ow, okay, get it. H there. Okay, and we're good. And it's interesting that Tilly's picking up on that too. But yeah. Meanwhile, James is just standing behind her chair, being all weirdly intimidating and stuff because reasons. And then we discover that either well, then we discover that somehow Ian knows the family. So, yeah. And then has to explain why she knows Ian to everybody else. Which, I glanced at the next page, so I know that's what's gonna happen, and, like, it's kind of obvious from the setup. But I am interested to see how that plays out, because, with how obnoxiously misogynistic and, the amount of disdain for any lower class, quote unquote, people that James has. That'll be interesting. Especially because, dude is probably not going to keep his mouth shut. But the Zoological Society totes brought an absinthe drinking kid. Only explanation. Right? Right. Yes, it's totally that. Assume Ian is also there to investigate. Exactly. That I'm guessing that Ian showed up because he found or he saw the article in the paper, or is somehow has some connection to the article in the paper, and the kid is presumably the boy's younger sibling, and the kid was real sad or having issues otherwise, and that was a way to cheer them up and maybe get further information. But yeah, it was an interesting note to end the section on, for sure. Like, yeah. But it it also just emphasizes the difference between James and Ian too. Because James is just standing there like, yes, I am better than all of you. Yes. So, was it the police that have called on you recently? Versus Ian, who's just like pretending to be a horse and trying to make people's day better. At least from appearances. So, we'll see how that plays out. But that's what it's looking like, at least. But yeah. So, that's where we are right now. We're 30... no, stop it. We're 34% of the way through. So... That's weird. Having it in the mode that you can play the audio, it says there's 8 hours and 15 minutes left. But having it with just the page, it's 5 hours and 13 minutes. So, I don't know. Of course, it also said that it was calibrating how fast your reading speed is, so maybe that's just what it is. I don't know. 5 more chapters for next time? Yeah. So, up to chapter 15. So there's... Okay, it looks like there's more or less 28 chapters. And the last one, okay. So if it starts in May, yeah, it starts in May, and then there's timestamps for July 2nd, July 11th, and December 1st. So, yeah, it looks like that's where we're going. But yeah, 11 to 15 for next week. There is like a mini, like 3-page thing in the middle there, but yeah, let's go with that. So, anyone have additional thoughts, discussion points, or what have you that haven't been brought up or generally okay, there we go. Generally addressed as yet, or not? Oh man. Well timed. Oh man. You know those times that you stretch and like it cuts off your air supply? That's what just happened. Alright. Good to know. Okay. So, there we go. Yeah, so I'm trying to figure what we can do for Thursday. Yeah, kind of a it's like this is expected, but also annoying. But also okay, fine, whatever. But yeah. So oh, they did? I didn't see that. Okay. Don't know what that was, but there we go. If it. There we go. It's kind of loud. Yeah. Okay. Fabulous. All right. Yay. So, I'm trying to figure what to Thursday you could draw Valkyries. I could. Yes. Yes, indeed. Um, I'm just trying to figure logistics, because I want to do. You just don't want them as a watercolor, um, because I'm gonna be ordering an HDMI cable, and I should be able to use that to use my actual camera for streaming, as opposed to trying to get the phone to work. Which it would be cool if I could get the phone to do that too, just, in case there's, I don't know, mobile games or whatever that we want to deal with. But if I order something today, then it should be here by Wednesday or Thursday. Oh, we can wait then. Yeah, no. It's one of those that I've been looking at the cables for a bit. So yeah, no. There should be something here to let that be a what? To let that be a thing. Shortly. There we go. Yeah. So that would be cool. That would be cool indeed. So yeah, no, I can work up the illustration part of it before that and do inking and whatever else on stream. That would be fun. Yeah. Also a good decompress situation, because I'm apparently going to be in the car in a contained environment with my grandma for no less than 3 hours on Wednesday, and yeah, just so fun. So we'll see what happens with all of that. Yeah. Chat, why are you not letting me scroll? Why? Wait. Because I have to go. There we go. Also, I'm just saying the notice that you followed BurgerMan92, so thank you for that. If you're still hanging out in chat, very cool. Why are you being so slow? So, yeah. Anyway, yeah, because basically I'm I'm the driver to an appointment and stuff. Anyway, so thank you much for hanging out and being generally awesome and stuff, everybody. So, yeah, I look forward to seeing y'all again in the Discord or on, because slow is the new fast. Yeah, right. Look forward to, ow, jeez. Oh, jeez. Okay. Look forward to seeing y'all in the Discord or on YouTube or here on Thursday or next week, depending on when you want to show up. If you want to participate in the book discussion part of the convo, feel free. We're doing chapters 11 to 15 for next week. And it's shaping up to be an interesting situation. So, yeah. At which point, like, honestly, I really... I'm gonna preface this with, like, the... most of my murder mystery knowledge comes from Sherlock, Murder, She Wrote, and Diagnosis Murder. So I don't rightly know what would have been written prior to the Sherlock era. So I don't know if there's anything contemporary to Tilly's time period that she would have been potentially reading. But I would be interested to see how she would react to something like Sherlock and whatnot from that. So, we shall see. Alright, let me just paste this over here. Excuse me. Come on. Alright. Are you gonna let me read? Yes. Alright, everybody. Have a fabulous rest of your day, evening, night, whatever time it is. Thank you for stopping by. Links and everything, if you're watching on YouTube, are going to be down in the description. Have a great one, and we'll see you later. Bye, everybody. Alright, so, yeah. Have a fabulous evening, everyone. Okay. All right.